Good morning and welcome to My Left Ear. I am Carrie Freeman. It is Tuesday, March 22nd, and this is video 82. My Left Ear, I write, produce, and direct My Left Ear. I always like to say that. I do political and psychic commentary, and I get into some philosophy and spirituality and my good evidence technique, etc., etc. Try to make it fun and entertaining. If you voted for Donald Trump, you will not like this YouTube channel, so you probably should move on. It will only, irritate you, and I don't want to irritate you. What do I do when I'm not doing this? I have private clients. I do psychic coaching, and I've done hypnotherapy for 20 years. And I do even medical issues with hypnotherapy, where I've lowered blood pressure, helping someone with mouth pain after cancer, helping someone come back from a very tough birth. And then I help with creative things and breakthroughs and fears and all kinds of stuff. Down below is my email. You can contact me if you have any questions. If you want one sheet with my fees, I'll email it to you. So welcome. Now, as I begin, I called this, what did I call this? There were so many things. Putin rumor, runes, the Russians flee, and the Scotus nominee. All of that's going to be covered today. There is a woman who is substituting for Nicole Wallace this week. She is so excellent, and I looked up her name. I couldn't find her name. She has very, very dark hair, almost black, kind of short. She's really elegant and terrific. And she said yesterday, just this phrase that caught me, Putin has an appetite for carnage. And I thought that was fairly profound. I'm going to start today with a rumor that is going around, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. Ukraine's military intelligence claim that Russia's elite scheme to overthrow Putin to restore economic ties with Western countries. Alexander Bornikov, head of FSB security agency, is allegedly being considered as Putin's successor, according to Ukraine's intelligence. Pretty interesting. And I thought that was worthy of checking in with the runes. It's what I wish for, by the way, personally. So how valid is the runes response? How this rumor, how valid is it according to the runes? That's really what I wanted to say. Okay, so I'm going to go through this because it's interesting. So the first rune I pulled was the rune of defense. And we tend to think of defense through a fight and war and defending. So let me talk about defense for a minute. It indicates through inconvenience and discomfort, which are very mild words when you're talking about a war and this brutal situation. But we read into the runes. I read into the runes. It says, through inconvenience and discomfort, growth is promoted. And that would be for Russia and for Ukraine, not for Vladimir Putin. The ability to foresee consequences helps them decide, meaning the schemers, the planners. And once clear for the people planning and plotting, it becomes effortless. So, meaning the end of Putin's reign. Not that it becomes effortless for Vlad Putin. Okay, I want to be really clear about that. The second rune I pulled was the rune of strength. Never fear. It's in the reversed position. Strength reversed. All right. Is without ears to hear or eyes to see, he will fail. It has to do with his isolation, his megalomania that no one knows more than he does, and that is his weakness. And it is in history the weakness of the authoritarians and how they fail. And so Putin is just in line with history. It is the weakening of his position and concludes failure and disappointments, okay? But the third rune is the best. I went, I wish there had been a video on me when I threw that last rune, because I was like, oh, this is perfect. All right, this rune is probably the darkest rune in the whole book of runes, in this whole bag. And you may have seen it before. Only comes up in special circumstances. So this is the rune of stand alone. You love it? This is about Putin. Stand alone. It's so literal, my friends. So it does say, winter of your spiritual life is upon you. It might have stated in the book, winter of your spiritual life is upon Putin. It says trying to hold on will be a mistake. It is a rune of no movement and failure. And there is no positive accomplishments for Putin with that reading. It's pretty cool. So there you have it. I wanted to start out with that. So this one was so literal. You know, sometimes they're just so literal, and sometimes really takes some major left ear evaluation, but not this one. My left ear has been feeling and hoping that there is something being planned in Russia, because this is going to save the Russian people too. If Putin stops, or however he stopped. And here's something interesting. I'm going to get to it in a minute. But right now, there are reports that Russia is intensifying the attacks. But the news outlets are saying that the conflict has come to a stalemate on the Russian side. Outlets are using this word to describe the current status of the Russian invasion/war. And reportedly, this is pretty widely reported, Russians are surrounding some cities in Ukraine, but unable to take over. Now, I do believe, I see Petey out there chasing a fly, so he just jumped in the air. I was like, what are you doing? All right, I lost this. Stalemate. So they have to be able to get into the cities and hold them, because the Ukrainian army is passionate. The Russian army isn't passionate. They're following rules. Some of them are just giving themselves up. But here, let me get to this. Well, I did write here. I just want to see. My left ear said, the more Russian propaganda there is, the more fear they have, the bigger their fear. All right, my font blew up again, like you know it does this from time to time. Like every show, it blows up, and I have to do this. I'm going to ask somebody about this. All right, right now, here's some numbers. 250 Russians have fled Russia. The reasons that are being given, this is from a Russian journalist that was on TV. This is her specialty. She's with the New York Times. The reasons given are they don't want political persecution. They have a dread of the unfamiliar, which is the old Soviet Union. They're afraid that it's returning, which it looks like it could. And not knowing what that would look like and how that would affect their lives. They're afraid of the suppression and the control that is coming, indicated, and of the global isolation for Russia. In addition, the people that are fleeing say that morally they don't want to remain in Russia and associated with this attack on Ukraine and the deaths. So that's interesting. What's going to become of Russia? That many people leaving. By right now, there's probably more than 250,000. That's just the last figure I got. Right now, there's 9,800 plus Russian soldiers have been killed, and it is historical, people. It's historical. 16,000 plus Russian soldiers are injured. Amazingly, even though with the pictures we see, the numbers with Ukraine are much less, much less. There is a story, but I think it's verified now, that Russians have kidnapped Ukrainians, taken them out of their home, out of nursing homes, and shipped them to Russia and dispersed into camps. And this is flat out nightmare, right? It's a nightmare. But this is how, evil and corrupt and the intention of Vladimir Putin for world domination. There are rumors, which I doubt that are rumors. I kind of hate to say this. Let me say this in code, that Russian troops are attacking Russian women and children. And I want you to read into that when I say attacking. I really kind of have to be careful with YouTube. And after their attacks, many of the women are being executed. That is really hard to share with you. Okay. On Twitter, a picture appeared of some kind of weird compound. You didn't know where it was. And it was about another rumor that Putin moved his family to a remote nuclear bunker. But here's what my left ear thinks. It's not that that's impossible, but I think that was leaked on purpose to further scare people. I don't really know. Well, I don't watch a lot of readers because I don't want to be colored influenced, but a little spattering after I write my show, I might check in on a few people. And generally speaking, the vibe I'm getting, which is my vibe, which is my left ear vibe, is that we won't see a nuclear attack. They're talking about small ones. And it's hard to know whether that's wishful thinking. I didn't want to do runes on it. Not yet. Maybe this week. But I think it was a tactic, to be honest with you, to scare further, rather than announcement, oh, look what we found. And then remember my 3.5 minute video the other day where I did tell you as a little, treat, a little Twinkie, that I pulled the rune of disruption when I asked if Putin will survive the year. I think I heard a reader say within the next 3 months. Could be. I gave year as a long latitude. I think it would be sooner too. Now we're going to move on to the Supreme Court and the confirmation of Katanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman judge to be nominated to Scotus. This is very historical. And I went in and I found some history that I didn't know and I thought you would find really interesting. And by the way, she's going to be approved. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? And is she the coolest woman? All right, so here's some facts. Kind of mind-blowing. For 127 years, Scotus was a haven for white Christian males as Supreme Court judges. That's it. White Christian males. Only. And there were no women, no Blacks, no Jews, etc. And none were considered for 127 years. And there were no confirmation hearings either. There was like, we like this guy, he's confirmed. I mean, it was really random. And not everybody was an attorney who graduated from law school. It's hard to imagine. All right. Now, in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson picked one of his aides, Louis Brandeis, for a spot on the Supreme Court. And Louis Brandeis became a nominee. He was Jewish, Harvard educated, graduated, and very wealthy from his own law practice. So for the first time, all the white Christian men wanted to ask Louis Brandeis some questions, the Jewish man. But Brandeis did not have to testify like Katanji is doing, and other people have done. He answered questions via paper. Interesting, right? Then after that, and he did get on, it was years and years and years before confirmation hearings happened again in 1939. And in 1939, a man named Felix Frankfurter became a nominee and was the first to testify and answer questions. Frankfurter, like Brandeis, was Jewish, and he was a bit controversial at the time because of his defense of Sacco and Vanzetti during the 1920s, which was a huge murder trial. Now, when it transferred into it being a long process and voting and asking questions, according to Lawrence O'Donnell, he said that evolved because then in the 50s, they all wanted to be on TV. So I'm mentioning Lawrence because that's not something I'm making up. It's what he said. And for the first, I've mentioned this before, for the first 127 years, here's a number, only 49 graduated from law school. Is that amazing? The Supreme Court in the early days, only 49? It's crazy. Okay, she's gonna be great. She is great. And she has a temperament, and she is handling the ugliest questions and people going through this thing. But she was prepared for it. You look at her, and she's a wise woman, a very soulful woman. My left ear, the power of propaganda in America, the king of it is Tucker Carlson. And I will continue to tell you, at some point, I think he's going to get pulled in by the FBI or the DOJ, and he's going to get in some trouble. That's what I'm sharing with you. And I think maybe next time I'll pull Runes on it. My left ear, the most dangerous politician right now is not Donald Trump. It's Ron DeSantis in Florida. Now, I have felt it for weeks and weeks and weeks. He is really turning Florida into a crazy, fascist, authoritarian state as their governor. You know, you can't say gay. You can't make white people feel bad or guilty. What the hell is that? Oh my God. Such bad news on Ron DeSantis. I mean, he really is more dangerous than Trump. I do not believe he will become president. But here's something I heard that I want to give credence to, because I always like to give credit. You know, I like to give credit. Like, it's not, I actually am on board for this. I've had the same feeling, but I don't know that I quite, and so this week, maybe a few days ago, Milu, because Milu doesn't do cards either. I kind of relate to him. He believes, and so do I, and so does my left ear, that something's going to happen suddenly with Ron DeSantis, like out of the blue, and it's not going to be good for him, and it's going to stop him in his tracks. I have a little bugaboo that it might be related to Matt Gaetz, but it's a bugaboo, and I didn't do the runes on it. So I'm going to come back to a couple of these things and get some more clarity. So I'm introducing this idea. There is this man that I follow on Twitter, and he's often on MSNBC. His name is David Rothkopf, Rothkopf. So I want to know more about him because I know I was going to share with you. So he is an American professor of international relations, a political scientist, and a journalist. He is the founder and CEO of the Rothkopf Group and a visiting professor at the Paul H. Knightsey School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins University. And he's an author and the host of podcast Deep State Radio. It's important for me to mention that he was born to a Jewish family. His father survived the Holocaust, while 36 of his relatives did not. I love his writing. I love his humanity, intellect. So I just copied a little thread that I wanted to share with you so I can introduce you to him. So it's in lieu of the quotes, but it is a quote because he's on Twitter. So I just picked out like 4 or 5 shorts. So I'm just going to read them, and then talk to you for a moment. He said, "War is not just a military exercise of the continuation of politics by other means. It is, especially as practiced by monsters like Putin, an assault on the spiritual foundations of life, a desire not just to kill and maim, but in doing so, to crush the will of living survivors. Live survivors," is what he wrote. All right, here we go. There's another one. How do we communicate that? We get glimpses, a bloodied mother on a stretcher being told her newborn is dead and begging to be allowed to die herself now that all is lost. But that is the minute-to-minute reality on the ground in this nightmare, the minute-to-minute reality that is able to be captured. It is a different such story unfolding in an unending stream of devastating losses. And it is what is important and should lead us to prioritize our compassion and even our fury ahead of our views and our perspectives. I think that's a really important thing. Should lead us to prioritize our compassion and even our fury ahead of our views and perspectives. That's a big observation. In covering this war, in seeing it through the lens of social or other media, we get facts and muddled views, but seldom capture the truth of this terrible thing that has shattered the world for so many innocents and illustrated the depravity of the authors of this cataclysm. And we're winding it up here. Hard as it is, I think we who want to understand what is happening and what to do about it, we who are fortunate to be watching from the comfort and safety of our homes, thank you, need to push past and through the mountains of coverage and look for the essential truth of the war. Boy, he is just stripping it down to the basics. This is the last of David Rothkopf. That will be the individual stories of 10 million people uprooted from their homes and tens of thousands of dead and more wounded, suffering and grieving. Not statistics, but heartbreak and courage and perseverance and the senselessness of it all. I hope that wasn't too long for you guys. I just really felt it was important and it was so deep. So I really wanted to share that with you. And if you are on Twitter, you could follow David Rothkopf. So I had something, now that's sort of finishing up here. I had something happen yesterday that was really cool. And what's strange is I was preparing to, and I am going to do a video. My next video is actually going to be, excuse me, I'm going to pick something out here. It's actually going to be about this book, The Comic's Daughter, which is my true crime memoir. I'm trying to get the light where it doesn't hit, but anyway, there it is. So I was going to start offering it to my viewers because I have a finite amount of books available, and then it will not be available because I'm rewriting it into a novel. So I hired a Wix specialist to fix the website so people could order it from the website. So it's been very much in my consciousness getting this book ready and then selling it and so on and so on. And I went to lunch with the friend who spent the night that I told you about. We went to breakfast yesterday, but in my area on Monday, a lot of restaurants are closed for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They just close on Monday. And I think it has to do with a holdover from the pandemic. So we tried 2 places that were closed, and then we ended up at a place right in my neighborhood named Vivian's that I've been to many times, but I hadn't been to Vivian's in like 3 years. It's a little coffee shop, and it has an outdoor patio, which is nice. So we go in, and I see a neighbor of mine sitting having breakfast with some people, and was like, hi, Judy, how are you? And she quickly introduced me to the couple, made a couple of jokes, sat down and had breakfast. My girlfriend packed up her bags and left. I was home in the afternoon and my phone rang, and it was my neighbor that I had run into. I'm not going to mention a lot of names because there's a couple of famous people involved, but she used to work for someone extremely famous who died, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, and who was loved and who won a lot of awards for directing, writing, and producing. Just don't want to mention his name, okay, right now. So she calls me and she said, you know that the couple I was sitting with, and I said, yeah. She goes, well, it was really odd. Both he and his wife said that you looked exactly like a friend of theirs back in, I think they're in the Midwest now, used to live in Hollywood. And they just were marveling at how you looked like her. And so my neighbor sort of mentioned, oh, you know, da-da-da, and Carrie is a writer, and she wrote this book, and I really liked it. And the man said, what's the book about? So she said, well, it's called The Comic's Daughter, and her father was a road comic, and then there's a mafia story, and he said, I want to read it. Will you send it to me? So she said, of course. So she's telling me this. He wants to read it. So as a little bit of my dry sense of humor, I said, I don't know, Judy. I don't know if it's a good idea. Well, she knew I was joking. And then she said, so this man has written and directed movies. He's a screenplay writer. He did projects with the famous guy, her boss. And he really got interested in my book. And then when they left, he pointed at her and said, do not forget to send me Carrie's book. Well, I thought that was awfully good evidence, and it told me that the energy of it is springing up. So that was just really neat. It kind of pierced some stagnant energy that I'm experiencing. So that was that. And it was very kind of my neighbor to pitch the book. I mean, I said, so what did you tell him about the book that piqued him like that? So she mentioned, well, I told him about this and this, and then I went, oh my God, that was brilliant what you did. And I wanted to share that with you. Now, in the next video, I'm going to make a short video and talk about this, tell you a little bit about the story, and let you know how you can purchase it if you wish. And more about this. But since that happened yesterday, I'm just sharing it with you. I'm going to say once again, it wouldn't hurt any of us to take 5 to 10 minutes a day and just send President Zelensky, his family, and all the Ukrainians, and even the Russian people, white light. White light. If we get enough people, just send them the white light. Maybe that can be part of the stalemate where it just shuts down. Also, I believe that the Ukrainians are being sent special jets, but I'm not sure whether it's from Poland. I'm not sure where it's from. So that's just a little, I did a lot of research this week, so I don't have this information, but I think they're getting more and more and more. All right, my friends. You know, I only made that video 2 days, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. It was like 3 minutes. I got so many responses. It was really funny over 3 minutes checking in. So that was really cool. I will see you very soon. make peace, make memories. Okay? You take care. Bye-bye. Oh, I'm like trying to do my pointer to turn off my phone. Doesn't work. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.